Hey, it's Ken from Ken's Small Church Tech, and I'm back with you today with the RGBlink Mini ISO. And I've already done a initial observations type of video, so I really wanted to give you something with a lot of substance to it. And so I contacted RGBlink, and we had some good discussions by email. I think I brought up some things that they're going to be working on, and they helped me look a little bit closer at what I was doing. It is now up to firmware version 1.8, and that just came out not even a week ago. And and also some of the things that I was having problems with, they showed me how to work through that, and now I'm going to be able to show that to you also. So initially, I'm going to talk about how I'm set up here. And then we'll go into more of how you can set this up so that a volunteer can use very few buttons to allow them to manage a couple of cameras and a live stream with very little work involved by them. So let's get right to it. All right, so there it is, the RGBlink Mini ISO, and how I have mine set up at the present time allows me a lot of flexibility in what I want to do. So let me just kind of go around the block here and show you what I have and how I have it set up. So right now you can use any of the four HDMI and or any of the four SDI for a total of 4 inputs from one of those, from any of those 8. So in this particular case I have number 3 coming in here, which means number 3 here is not going to be visible because I have the SDI taken priority right now, actually taken the priority, yes, away from the HDMI. So with that plugged in, I've told it to use the SDI. And so that's what it's doing. So I have 4 inputs, 2 of them running in here at 4K. This is 1080p, it's 3G SDI, which is for 1080p. And then I have 2 at 1080p coming in from different places also. Actually, I take that back. I got 3 coming in at 4K and 1 at 1080p. So you can do multiple things. You can pretty much have any kind of HDMI coming in here, and it seems to work okay up to 4K on any of the 4. SDI will be 1080p max. I have a HDMI out. This one actually is the multi-view, exactly what you're seeing here, and I can bring that up here and it looks just like this. So your multi-view is not going to have, if you have external multi-view, it's not going to have the menu on it, which is nice because you'll be using the menu on the actual switcher here to do several things here. In fact, this is one of those things with the shortcut key. Shortcut key brings you right to the recording and to the transitions, and that's all it does. So it'll bring in both of those at any one time. So you don't have to go through the menu to get to all that. So nice to have the menu on the switcher itself, and you can. It's a touchscreen. But if you have an external multi-view, it's not going to have the menu showing, so you don't lose anything from that. Coming around the corner, I have a USB out. This is going to be for a UVC webcam to our laptop, so you can use this in a Zoom or a Teams meeting or OBS or whatever you want to use it in. It comes basically as a webcam. Right below that is a HDMI out, and that is going to be, or that is your program view out if you want to monitor that on the out. If you're recording it, it doesn't matter whether that's on there or not. It's going to be monitored. You know, it's pretty much just a monitor there. You have a USB input. This is 2 things. One, it's a USB webcam in to be used in the media input. So that's extra to these other 4. And or you can use this as a recording place. So as I'm recording, it's actually coming out of here to this USB hub, and then it comes over here, and this SSD is what's being recorded on. And I can also put another drive in. I can put anything from SD cards, micro or regular. Because I have that on this hub, I can use USB drives either on the hub or directly into the RGB Mini ISO. Either way, but that's coming through there. Then you have the network input. This is bringing in, or this is going to be sending out to the stream. Obviously, if it's going through your network, it's also going to be bringing in and sending NDI. So you can encode and decode NDI. So you can bring NDI in and you can send it out to other locations. So that's pretty cool that NDI is an encoder decoder built right into here. You will have to set that up and it's free. Just got to get the permission to do that. Then I have my number one input for audio. This is coming from an audio mixer, and that's the microphone that I'm using. And then the number two is a input and an output. So it's a headphone and a microphone jacks on there. So that's all. That's what I have set up here. You have your menu key, or your menu button. You have your menu key, so you can select using that, or you can use your hand. Once you bring up the menu, you can touch screen, and I tend to touch screen here. You have your audio knobs and AF key for each of the four inputs, and then you have a mute button and a volume knob for your microphone input and your headset. You have your cut buttons for the program and cut buttons for the preview. So here's your preview, here's your program, and there's a cut and auto, so you can swap back and forth. And that's going to become real important because we're going to be talking about putting picture-in-picture, and the changes that you're going to be making as you do the picture-in-picture will happen in the preview and not in the program view. So we'll get back to that in a moment. You have your layer buttons, layer A and layer B. There's also two other layers. They're over here in the input. You have a background and you have a logo. We'll talk about the layers here in a moment because that will be real important for setting this up. And that's about it. Besides your T-bar, that's how I have mine set up. Now you notice I have this on this slanted laptop cooling fan. Now I have it on this for two reasons. One, I like the fact that I can slant it forward a little bit, and because it's forward a little bit, I don't have to work very hard to be able to see this this 3-inch monitor. So it's a small monitor. When it's laying flat, I'm going to have to look over the top of it a lot more, and I don't want to have to do that. I want to be able to sit back in my chair, and that's what, by slanting it up, it allows me to do that. The other thing is this gets extremely hot. In fact, let me bring up right there. So this is the Tau 1 Live website, and you can check your switcher. You can do all the things with your switcher. There's a lot of things you can do here, and this is RGBlink's way of also helping you stream to multiple locations. So you can stream 30 locations. I'm not sure exactly how many you can do, all through this one stream out. And that would be really key. You do have to pay for that extra service. If you don't want that, it doesn't cost you anything to use it. But what you can see on here right there in the middle is 54 degrees centigrade. So it gets hot. That is somewhere around 130, I think it's about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, what I discovered is, as I started working with this, because it got so hot, I put a fan underneath it, and I brought it down to 42 degrees. Now that's getting closer, much closer to just over 100 degrees, maybe 110, which is definitely something that you can touch with your hand and not feel too uncomfortable with it. So it is warm, but it's not that warm. So this is what it does. And the thing is, you can also, this has a fan built into it, and because it has the fan built into it, it gets noisy. So if you have the fan on automatic and it's running as fast as it can, trying to keep up with that heat, it's going to be noisy. So right now I have it on manual. I turned it down about halfway, cut out all that noise, put this fan behind it, left it on almost just barely turned on, so it's going slow and is quiet, and now there's less noise over here than if I just had the fan on going high, trying to keep itself cool. So something I've learned as I've been playing with this, like I said, I like it sitting like this, so I'm going to keep this, and whether I actually have it turned on or not is immaterial. It's very handy to have that. So this isn't the only one that does it. Every single switcher I've ever used has been very hot. When you're working with video, things get very hot in order for them to do that, and when you put it into a small box, it's just going to be that way. So that's not a negative, it's just the way it is. But it's also worth thinking about. So this is how I have mine set up. Now, what I want to do is show you some of the things that I can do with this. And so picture in your mind that instead of being in my office here, we're in a church. And I want to just simply be able to move a camera to a specific spot, be able to record Pastor doing certain things, and then as he moves across the stage or moves across the sanctuary area for the front of the church, I can switch on a different camera and be ready to go with where he's going to be going to. So because we have a formal service and a liturgy, we know where he's going to be for the next portion very quickly. Less formal, this may not be the best, but because I can do that and have it set up ahead of time, this works really well. So what we're going to be doing is going to the menu, and we're going to be using this thing called Views. Now you can change the inputs, you can change the audio, you can change the outputs. You can do all those things. It does have the transition effects, keying capability, PTZ control. But let me show you what I can do with these different things simply by using that view button. So I set up the view here, and what I have here in the view is I have 6 out of the 8 views set up so that basically this is a scene. As Pastor moves to a different part of the front of the church during the service, I know what's coming up. I can go to the scene that I want to be able to use. So that's going to move the camera. That's going to change the zoom. So here's now the PTZ settings are in place. It's going to go to the right location. It's going to have whether it's a place where I want to use picture-in-picture so I can have a couple things going on at the same time. That's going to be part of it in here. So there's going to be a lot of different things going on that we can do that. The thing is, when you press one of these buttons, it's going to change the preview, not the program view, which is important because you don't want to change the program view while you're getting ready to set up the next view or the next scene. So I'm going to now change this, and I'm going to click on number 1 here, and notice it brings up basically the view that we're looking at, but with a picture-in-picture with me down here in the corner. So this is something that I can set up ahead of time, that I want to have this picture-in-picture. Now when I go into here, now I have it coming in, and this is what's being recorded on the program view. So now I can do that. Now while I'm off the stage in the preview mode, now I can set up the next scene, and that might be number 2. And in this particular case, it's going to be a different camera. It's going to be this camera now instead of the one that's over the top of it. I'm still in the same place because I decided, okay, I want to stay there while I'm talking about these different views. So now when I switch and transition over to there, I'm still in the same place, but the camera has changed. Now, if I want to do this again, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to move from this particular scene to another one, and hit number 3, now you can see what just happened. Now the problem is here, it moved that camera, but I was already looking at that camera. So let's back up, go back to scene 2, move it back over here. I'm going to pick up scene 1, and I'm going to change the location. So now I happen to have it on this camera right here, okay, looking straight down at it. And I want to change over to number 3. and now it just moves the camera. I'm not looking at that, using that camera at the present time, so it's the other camera that I might be using, but I stayed in the same, and now I can transition directly over to that view, and now I can talk about that view, or like I said, Pastor might be now doing something a little bit different, using a different camera, and I'm right here. Now what happens if I want to get rid of that picture-in-picture? Well, that's not too difficult to do either. But it needs to be done over in the preview mode again. So now I want to get rid of picture-in-picture, so I'm going to choose one of the layers. In this case, layer B, which is above layer A. Okay, so you have multiple layers, and this might be a good time to talk about this for a moment. So if I get rid of both of the layers, in other words, both of the two layer buttons right here, A and B, let me bring back a different view here. There we go. So I have layer A and layer B. If I don't have either one of those lit up, they're not going to show up in the preview mode. Okay, so layer A is the next layer. So what you have in here right now, this is the background. So this is actually a picture that I have stored in here in the background button, and I have told it, okay, this is the background that I want to use in this particular setting over here. So I go to A, I now have that camera up. This is the A layer, so I have the background layers on the bottom. The A layer comes next. The B layer comes on top of the A layer. And the logo is actually the fourth layer, and that goes on top of all of them. Now the thing about the logo, it's going to be on both the program and the preview, and it's going to always be there unless you turn it off. So that's not quite so convenient. I can always put a logo into this during post-production if I want to do that. If I'm live streaming, I might have it up there for a little bit and then turn that off. That does have to go through the menu system, so it's a little bit more difficult to turn it on and off. So just to let you know that. But now I can change the layers while it's in here. But again, it's going to be over here in the preview mode. So once I have that, I'm going to go to a different view, and this is now a view without a layer B in here, and now I can talk to you like this here. So without having the second layer in there, without having that picture-in-picture in there, that can be another view that I have set up ahead of time. So if I set this up right, I can pretty much set this up for what's going to happen throughout the service, and I can go from one to the next, and it will work out pretty nicely, and I can go back and forth if I want to, but you just got to basically work out a schedule or work out a synchronization to do all that. So let's look at another layer here, or another view. So this is another view that you have available to you. Now notice I have both the A and B side by side, which means you can adjust the size and the location of all these picture-in-picture sites. And again, we'll talk about how to do that here in a moment. But I can put them side by side, and I can have something below that. So in this particular case, let me just get rid of the layers for a moment. I have the background, which is this star type of background. I can then put those layers back in here, and I can do this. So this might be something you do if you want to bring in a guest speaker from someplace and be able to do an interview, for instance, like this. So this would be something that I would actually do from my house here as I'm interviewing some people or somebody else online. I can bring them in and put them in here. And the way I would do that is I can use that USB input as one of the ways to get them in here, and I could run that down in here, or I can use an HDMI input. So there's several different ways, but then I can go back out through the USB output as a webcam basically, and going back out to the Zoom or whatever you're bringing them in on. So this would be a way that you can be talking to somebody. You can have a lower third on that if you want to. Put that into into the background also, so you can talk about what's at the bottom. Now that background is not something that you can change easily, so that's kind of stationary. And it's a graphic. So also the background and the logo, basically it says 1080p. Well, having tried that, that means the 1920 by 1080 is the size that you want. And that's what it's looking for. PNG files tend to work the best for me. That's what I have now. So it's all PNG files at 1920 by 1080, and allows you to do that background without any problem. What else do we need to know? We are going through, let's go with number 8 here. All right, number 8. This is the one I set up so that I can do some PowerPoint slides, which we do as a part of our church service that we live stream. And this is what we do. We basically have this set up so that we can have text on one side and pastor being seen on the other side. And this does two things for us. One, it allows the person that is watching our live stream, which we have several that are homebound and they can't get to church, so they can follow along. Let's bring this over here. Besides having the text of what pastor might be reading, we can also have what you need to follow along. You can see the picture behind here. This is, let me just get rid of, gotta go back over here and get rid of that. We can come back and you can see this is the picture that we have right now. Now we can't make it quite that way. We don't have this switcher doesn't have the ability at the present time to change the shape. It does have the ability to change the size of the picture, just not the shape. So we can't make it vertical. At least I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But you can change the size. So what I end up with, go back here, add that in, you end up with the shape like this, but we can still have the readings to the side of it. And again, I didn't try to make it the right size, but if you have it formatted correctly on your PowerPoint, you can have that over to the left, and I'm there then. So that's something you can do to add to your live stream, and by doing the picture-in-picture, it allows you to do that. Set it up as a view, push the button, boom, you're on with two cameras, basically two inputs, and the two inputs that you are looking to do. This now takes actually a couple of extra steps for us, and in this particular case, it's just a single step. Boom, it'll switch from whatever, and then you simply move it over into the program. Works out pretty slick that way. All right, now that you've seen how to work with views and create those scenes that you want to show during a live stream of your church service, use the link here to go to part 2 and see what it takes to create those views in the RGBlink Mini ISO. See you there.